Part 1. It started with a swipe and a photo I almost didn't click on, but something in his eyes held me there longer than I expected. My name's Eli Monroe. I'm 29, live in a small town outside Portland, Oregon. Graphic designer by day, professional overthinker by night. And for most of my life, love was just a story I helped design for someone else. Until Rowan messaged me. It was 2:17 a.m. I remember the time because I was wide awake again. Insomnia's been my roommate since high school. His message was simple. You look like someone I used to dream about. I laughed out loud, then stared at the screen for a full minute. Corny, but something about it felt honest. Not like the others, not like the cold, copy-paste pickup lines I was used to. So I replied, "Did he wake up and disappoint you?" He wrote back, "No, he never woke up at all." I didn't know what to say to that, but before I could ask what he meant, he sent another message. "I'm sorry, that sounded darker than I meant. Can we start over?" And just like that, we did. We talked for 4 hours straight that night. About music, childhood fears, what home feels like. He told me he was 31, lived 2 towns away, worked in restoration. Old houses, furniture, history people forgot. Something about that stuck with me. He said, "I like bringing broken things back to life." That line lived in my head all morning. By noon the next day, we had plans. Coffee at a little place downtown. It felt fast, too fast, but my heart didn't care about caution. When I saw him walk in, wearing a navy hoodie and those soft eyes, I forgot how to breathe. Rowan wasn't just handsome. He had this calmness about him, like the kind of quiet you crave when everything in your life is too loud. We sat outside, even though it was cold, and he smiled like he already knew me, like we'd done this before in another life. He held his coffee with both hands like he was afraid to let go, and I couldn't stop staring. The date lasted 4 hours. We stayed until the staff started stacking chairs inside. Neither of us wanted to leave, but something was off, just barely, like his smile was real, but behind it there was something heavy, something unsaid. I asked him, "Are you okay?" He blinked, then looked away. I'm not used to someone asking that. That night, I dreamed about him, but not like some perfect rom-com fantasy. It was darker. He was standing in a hallway, old wallpaper peeling behind him, candlelight flickering on the walls. He reached for me, but just as I touched his hand, he vanished. I woke up gasping. 3:03 a.m. I reached for my phone. He had texted me. "Can't sleep? You?" "No, I was dreaming about you." There was a pause. Then he replied, "Did I disappear?" My blood ran cold. I hadn't told him what happened in the dream. How did he know? I stared at the message for a long time. Typed something, deleted it, typed again, then just asked, "What are you not telling me?" No reply. The next day, he invited me to his place. Said he had something to show me. Said he wanted me to understand. Understand what? I didn't know, but I went. Of course I went. I was falling fast for someone I barely knew, but felt like I'd known forever. And part of me was starting to believe maybe we had. Rowan lived on the edge of town, in a small blue house that looked older than it should, as if it had been forgotten by time. The windows were mismatched. The porch slanted slightly to the right, but inside it was beautiful, restored, cared for, loved, like he was trying to heal it, the way he said he did with everything broken. He gave me a tour, showed me the rooms, the things he was fixing, the pieces he'd found. But when we reached the hallway, the one for my dream, I froze. Same wallpaper, same flickering light. "Rowan," I said slowly, "have I been here before?" He turned to me, eyes soft but unreadable. "I don't know," he said quietly. "Have you?" And then he opened the last door on the right. Inside was a room with no furniture, just photos, hundreds of them, taped to the walls, all printed in black and white. All of me. What do you think Rowan is hiding? Is this fate or something far more dangerous? Drop your theories in the comments. Like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss part 2. And turn on notifications because the truth is only getting deeper from here. I couldn't breathe. My photo was everywhere. On the walls, the ceiling, even the back of the door. Black and white copies. Some smiling, some candid. One of me sleeping. How did you get these? I asked, barely above a whisper. Rowan didn't answer at first. He just stood there, still almost haunted. Then he spoke. Not all of them are yours. I blinked. What? He stepped into the room, took one photo off the wall, and held it beside another. Side by side, they looked identical. But they weren't. The person in the second photo wasn't me. Same hair, same jawline, same eyes. But it wasn't me. His name was Milo, Rowan said softly. My head spun. Rowan kept his eyes on the photo. He was the first person I ever loved. We met online 3 years ago. He looked up. You looked just like him. The room was silent. Not even the floor creaked. I felt sick, not scared exactly, but like I'd been dropped into someone else's grief, someone else's unfinished story. You should have told me, I said quietly. Rowan nodded. I know. I didn't want you to think I was projecting. Are you? I don't know. I turned to leave the room, overwhelmed. But just before I stepped into the hallway, I noticed something. One of the photos. It wasn't printed. It was drawn, charcoal on old paper. More detailed, more deliberate. I reached for it, and Rowan froze. Don't touch that one, he said quickly. I looked at him. Why? He hesitated. It's not one of mine. That night, I didn't go home. Not because I wanted to stay, but because I couldn't leave. Not with that much weight in the air. Not with that room still inside my head. Rowan slept on the couch. I took the guest room, but I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the drawing. That strange version of me, or Milo, or whoever he was, smiling, not warm, but knowing, too knowing. At 3:21 a.m., I heard footsteps, not from the living room, from the hallway, slow, deliberate, like someone pacing. I got up. The house was dark except for a nightlight glowing faintly in the kitchen. Rowan, I called out. No answer. I walked toward the hallway and stopped cold. The door to that room was open. I swear we had closed it. I stepped closer. Photo still there, but one was missing. The drawing. Gone. Rowan. I called louder now. He appeared behind me, rubbing his eyes. What is it? The drawing. It's gone. He looked past me, then inside the room, and his whole body stiffened. Not again, he whispered. What do you mean? But Rowan didn't answer. He just turned and walked away. Morning felt slow, heavy. We sat in silence over burnt toast and cheap coffee. Finally, I said it. I need to understand what's going on, Rowan. He looked tired, not just sleep-deprived, worn. I never told you what happened to Milo, he said. My stomach clenched. Rowan looked me in the eyes. He didn't leave me. I waited. He disappeared. No goodbye. No note. No warning. One day, he just didn't log back in. No text. No last message. And then, a week later, Rowan's voice cracked. I found his photo. Here, on the wall. I felt the air thin around us. Were you saying? Rowan's hands trembled slightly. I think this house remembers people, even the ones who never stepped inside. He looked at me. I never met Milo in person. Not once. But his photo showed up here. I sat back in my chair, trying to connect the dots. None of it made sense. And yet, something in my chest agreed. Not logically, but emotionally, like my body already knew. Are you saying I'll disappear too? Rowan looked at me. The silence between us said more than words. I stood up. No, I'm not doing this. I came here because I liked you, because I trusted you. And now I'm being told I might just vanish into some haunted house memory? I'm not Milo. Rowan stood too. I know that. But something brought you here, just like it brought him. I grabbed my bag. I had to leave. I had to clear my head. But as I walked out, Rowan said one last thing that stopped me cold. I didn't find all those photos alone. I turned. What? He looked at the floor. Sometimes they just appear. After I dream about someone. I stared at him. I've been dreaming about you since before we matched, Eli. I left the house. The air outside felt thinner, but I could breathe. For now, I looked back at the house once, and something in the upstairs window caught my eye. A figure, but not Rowan. It looked like me, or Milo, or both. It was gone before I could be sure. And in that moment, I realized something. Maybe I didn't find Rowan by accident. Maybe something else matched us. For a reason I didn't want to know. The sky was the color of old bruises. Gray, swollen, waiting to break. Just like me. I stayed with my sister for a few days. She didn't ask questions. Not the big ones anyway. But on the third morning, over cereal and silence, she finally said, "You look like you've seen a ghost." I didn't answer, because I wasn't sure she was wrong. Rowan hadn't texted me. Not once. No updates. No, I'm sorry. Not even a weird meme to break the tension. Just silence. Empty. Flat. Which somehow made it worse, because silence can be louder than any scream. On the fifth night, I opened the dating app. Not to match. Just to look. At his profile. At our chat history. But something was off. His profile was gone. Completely. Like it had never existed. I checked my messages. Still there. Still the same flirty jokes. Still the "you up?" Texts and blurry selfies. But the sender was listed as deleted user. My chest sank. I messaged him anyway, just in case. "Rowan, if this is you, please say something." I waited, refreshed, waited again. Nothing. Then I saw it. Something I had missed before. At the very bottom of our chat thread, there was one last message I didn't remember sending. No timestamp, no typing indicator. Just text, "You'll be next." I dropped the phone. Literally. It clattered to the floor and buzzed once, like it was laughing. My sister called from the kitchen. "You okay?" Yeah, I lied. Because what else could I say? I just got threatened by a possibly haunted boyfriend and or sentient house? The next morning, I went back. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. Closure, curiosity, maybe stupidity. Maybe all three. When I pulled up to the house, it looked different. Not physically, but energetically, like it knew I'd come back. The front door was unlocked. Of course it was. I stepped inside, and the air hugged me too tightly. The kind of air that lives in attics and old libraries, thick with memory and regret. "Rowan." I called out. Nothing. Just the hum of the fridge and the sound of my own breath. I found him upstairs, in the photo room, on the floor, surrounded by candles, all unlit. His eyes were red, not from crying, from lack of crying, from holding it all in. "I didn't delete my profile," he said without looking up. "I know," I whispered. "I didn't write that message either." "I know that too." He finally looked at me, tired, relieved, a little scared. "You came back." I needed answers. He pointed to the wall. The photos had changed. Again, now there were two drawn portraits, side by side, Milo and me. Only now mine was smiling, wider than before, too wide. "I don't know how to stop this," Rowan said. "I don't even know what this is." I walked closer to the wall, inspecting every frame, and then I noticed something that made my stomach twist. Each photo, whether printed or drawn, had a date written on the back. A date and a time. Rowan didn't speak as I flipped through them, but I could feel his breathing. Fast, shallow. When I reached my own drawn portrait, there was a date too. It was tomorrow, and a time, 3:21 a.m., the exact moment I'd heard footsteps that night. "Rowan," I whispered. "What happens at that time?" He didn't answer. He couldn't, because he was crying, silently, like the house might hear him. I sat beside him on the floor. "I don't know what this is," I said, "but I'm not leaving again." He looked up slowly. "I don't want to lose you. I don't want to be lost." We held each other, in the quiet, in the wait, not quite love, but something close, something desperate and real and ticking, because the clock didn't care about grief, or guilt, or how fast two people could fall for each other. It just kept moving toward 3:21 a.m. And somewhere deep inside the walls, something else was waiting too. Part 2. We stayed awake all night. Neither of us said out loud, but we both knew what we were waiting for. Or who. At 3:10 a.m., the house started to change. Not physically, but the temperature. Colder, thicker, like walking through water that remembered things. The air buzzed, soft like electricity through old wires. Rowan looked at the clock. 3:14 a.m. I reached for his hand. He gripped mine like it was the only real thing left in the world. 3:17 a.m. Somewhere upstairs, a floorboard creaked. Once, twice. Rowan's breathing grew shallow. Mine stopped entirely. Then nothing. Just silence. Dead total silence. Like the house was holding its breath. 3:20 a.m. My heart pounded so hard it echoed in my ears. Rowan whispered, "Always starts now." I looked at him. What does? But I didn't need the answer, because the lights flickered, and the hallway darkened, like something had stepped between us and the fuse box. 3:21 a.m. Time folded inward. The walls groaned like they were stretching or resisting. We both turned to the photo room, drawn by instinct or something deeper. And there, in the center of the floor, was a charcoal portrait of me. Only now, it was moving, not in a jump scare kind of way, not violently, just slowly shifting. The smile on my face deepened pixel by pixel, and then the eyes opened, inside the portrait, wide, black, unblinking. I froze. Rowan whispered, "That's how it happened to Milo." I stepped toward it, compelled, terrified. Rowan grabbed my arm. "No, don't. That's what it wants." "What is it?" I choked. He shook his head. "I don't know, but it doesn't want love, it wants memory." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" Rowan stared at the portrait, voice hollow. "I think it feeds on connection. People who were loved, who mattered. It traps the ones we remember most. It turns them into stories we never finish, so we never forget them." And then, the photo of Milo on the wall. It flickered, like a hologram short-circuiting. And for just a second, it wasn't Milo. It was me, an older version. Tired eyes, bruised heart, alone. I staggered back. No. But Rowan was already beside me, holding me. "You don't have to be afraid," he said gently. I looked up, panic rising. "Afraid? It's trying to erase me." "No," he said firmly. "It's trying to replace you." That's when we both heard it. The knock at the front door. Once, then again, slow, measured, like it had all the time in the world. Rowan looked at me. "We don't answer it." I nodded, but part of me wanted to, badly, like something behind that door remembered my name. The knock came again. Then, a voice, soft, muffled, but unmistakable. It was me. "Eli," it whispered, "I just want to talk." Rowan grabbed my shoulders. "Don't listen to it. That's not you." But it was my voice, my exact inflection, my pauses. It knew me. "It's what it does," Rowan said. "It mimics. It builds a version of you out of everything you've said, everything you've shared, and then it tries to take the rest." I backed away from the door, my knees shaking. "If we leave this house," I whispered, "will it follow?" Rowan looked toward the portrait, and for the first time, said something I'd never heard in his voice before. "I don't know." We stayed silent for a long time. The knock eventually stopped. The hallway light flickered one last time, then stayed on, The portrait, still now, eyes closed, smile gone, like it had finished feeding. At 4:06 a.m., the house went still, like it had slept. Rowan and I didn't. We couldn't. We sat on the floor, side by side, like kids waiting for the monster to crawl back under the bed. But we both knew it wasn't under the bed. It was in the walls, in the photos, in us. As the sky began to turn blue, the pale, tired blue of an anxious dawn, Rowan turned to me. "There's something I never told you." I waited. He reached into a small wooden drawer under the bed, pulled out a notebook, old, weathered, bound with twine. He handed it to me. "I didn't find this. I wrote it." I opened the notebook. It was filled with sketches, faces, some familiar, some not, each labeled with a name, and a date, and a time. Rowan swallowed hard. Every time I dream about someone, they appear in here first, even if I've never met them. I draw them without realizing it. He looked at me. "I drew you 2 nights before we matched." My voice trembled. "So was this ever real?" He nodded slowly. "I think that's what made it so dangerous." Because it was. I closed the notebook, looked at him. "I'm not staying in this house another night." Rowan nodded. "I'll come with you." I blinked. "You will?" He took my hand. "If this thing wants us to live in a memory, then we need to make new ones. Together." We packed in silence. No goodbyes to the photos. No backward glances. The house didn't protest. It didn't need to, because part of it had already followed us. In the notebook, in the sketch, in us. But at least now, we were leaving on our terms. And sometimes, that's enough. We left the house at sunrise. The light looked fake somehow, like a stage set pretending to be morning. But it was real, so we drove. Fast, quiet, no music, no small talk, just the sound of tires escaping the past. Rowan didn't ask where we were going. He just said, "Somewhere the house doesn't know." I nodded and kept driving. We reached a small town 2 hours later. Population sign said 2,198. It felt like fewer. The kind of town where people still wave from their porches. And nothing ever really happens. That's what I needed. That's what I thought I needed. We checked into a cheap motel. Flickering neon. Peeling wallpaper. Everything smelled faintly of lemon and old secrets. But it felt safe. At least for the night. Rowan sat on the edge of the bed, still clutching the notebook. I'd seen him open it 3 times already, like he was making sure the sketches were still there or hadn't multiplied. He finally looked at me. I think I made it worse. I sat beside him, close but not touching. Worse how? He flipped to a new page, one I hadn't seen. It was a face, drawn in dark charcoal strokes, smudged and hurried. But I recognized it instantly. It was me, only older, eyes sunken, mouth sewn shut. I backed away. "What is that?" Rowan swallowed. "I don't know. It appeared last night, after we left." I stared at the page. The date underneath was tomorrow, 3:21 a.m. Again. "I think it's following us," I whispered. Rowan didn't deny it. Didn't say I was being paranoid. He just said, "I think it always was." We slept in shifts. At least we tried. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw the portrait. Me, smiling too wide, eyes black as coal. And in the dream, it spoke. But I could never hear the words, only feel them. Cold, lonely, begging. By the second night, I stopped sleeping entirely. I sat at the tiny motel desk and stared at the walls. No photos this time, just blank, textured wallpaper. Somehow that was worse, because my brain filled in the blanks. Faces from the notebook, flickering just behind the patterns. Watching, waiting. Rowan finally said, "You know what this feels like?" I looked over. "What?" He exhaled shaky. "Grief." That one word landed like a meteor in my chest. Because he was right. That's exactly what it felt like. Grieving people who hadn't died, but had been taken, forgotten, rewritten. I finally asked him, "Rowan, why me?" He didn't answer at first. Then, "I don't think it chose you. I think I did." He stood and walked to his duffel bag, pulled something out carefully. A small box, wrapped in worn paper. He handed it to me. Inside was a Polaroid, faded, yellowing. It was Rowan, younger, smiling, and next to him was me, only I had no memory of it. "I took this when I was 15, he whispered. "You were passing through my hometown, on a road trip. I only saw you for 10 minutes, but you smiled at me, gave me your number. You never answered when I called." I stared at the photo. It was me, down a shirt I remembered owning in high school, but I'd never been to North Carolina, ever. I looked up, heart pounding. "What are you saying?" He blinked, tears forming. "I think I've loved you since I was a kid, and I think that's how it found you." The room pulsed. I felt dizzy, like the air had turned upside down, like nothing in the world was stable anymore. I whispered, "Did you dream me into your life?" He didn't answer, but his silence said enough. That night, at 3:21 a.m., the motel fire alarm went off. No smoke, no fire, just a deafening screech that ripped us from sleep. Rowan bolted up, eyes wild. "Don't go outside," he said. I nodded, but I already knew. We stayed in the bathtub, lights off, shaking, listening, and over the siren, I swear I heard it. My voice, outside the door, calling, begging. "I just want to talk. I just want to remember." By 4:06 a.m., the alarm stopped, the hallway went silent, and the shadow under the door was gone. But on the mirror, written in ash, was a message. "You are the memory now." Rowan and I didn't speak. Not that night, not for hours. Because when the thing starts using your voice, and your face, and your love, you don't run, you shatter. But when morning finally came, we made a choice, one we didn't understand yet, one we might regret forever. We burned the notebook, page by page, in the motel sink, watched the faces curl and vanish, watched mine last. Rowan cried the entire time, but I didn't, not until it was done. "Do you think that'll stop it?" he asked. I looked at the ashes. "No, but maybe it'll forget us for a while." He reached for my hand, held it tight. We didn't kiss, didn't smile. We just sat there, two broken souls, trying to rewrite a story that no longer belonged to us. But somewhere deep in the cracks of that motel wall, a new sketch was already forming. And this time, it wasn't mine. It was Rowan's. And the date underneath was next week at 3:21 a.m. We stayed in that motel for 3 more nights. No more fire alarms. No more voices at the door. But something had shifted inside us, like we were no longer just running from something, but carrying it. Rowan stopped sleeping. I stopped asking him why, because I knew the answer. The notebook was gone, but the drawings weren't. They were in his head now, burned into memory. And memory was what it wanted most. "I saw Milo again," he said one morning. We were watching the sunrise through broken blinds. He was younger this time, smiling. I didn't look at him, because I saw Milo too, standing across the street, staring, not moving, not blinking. We left town before lunch. Another map, another motel. This one was cleaner, newer, but it didn't matter, because the thing was already with us. At 3:21 a.m. that night, there was no knocking, no portrait, just a voice from inside the room, soft, shaking. It was Rowan, but Rowan was asleep, next to me, unmoving, still breathing, but frozen, like someone had paused him. The voice whispered, "You'll forget him eventually. You always do." I sat up slowly, heart pounding. "Who are you?" The voice smiled in my chest, not in my ears. Inside me, "Wrong question," it said. "Ask what you've taken." And then the mirror above the dresser cracked. not shattered. Just one clean line splitting my reflection down the middle. When I blinked, the crack was gone, but my reflection didn't blink back. I turned to Rowan, shook him. Nothing. He stayed still until 3:22 a.m. Then he gasped awake, like surfacing from deep water. He clutched my shirt, panicked. "Don't let me forget you," he whispered. I nodded, held his face. "I won't." But even as I said it, I wasn't sure if it was true. The next day, we drove to the coast, parked in front of an empty boardwalk. Salt in the air, waves crashing like distant thunder. We hadn't spoken for hours. But Rowan finally said, "I used to come here with Milo." I waited. He pointed at the end of the dock. That's where I told him I loved him. Then, softer, that's also where I forgot what he said back. I squeezed his hand. He looked at me. "I'm afraid that's how I'll lose you too." I shook my head. You can't lose what's still happening. But the moment we stopped moving, I trailed off because we both knew stillness is where it feeds. That night, we slept in the car, under the stars. No alarms, no mirrors. But at 3:21 a.m., I woke to Rowan humming, softly, low, almost lullaby-like. I didn't recognize the tune, but my reflection in the windshield was humming too, and smiling. "I think it's almost done," Rowan said. I turned to him. "What do you mean?" He looked older in the moonlight, eyes heavier. "It's not trying to erase us anymore. It's trying to become us." The next day, we drove to Milo's old house. Rowan didn't say why. He just said, "Ends there." I didn't argue, because something in me already knew it too. The house was empty, boarded up, but we got inside. The air felt quiet, not peaceful, not haunted, just neutral, like a place waiting to be written in again. Rowan walked straight to the upstairs hallway, where the photos used to hang. They were gone now, replaced by blank frames. Empty, untouched, but when I looked closer, they weren't entirely empty. There were faint marks, shadow-burned edges, as if someone had scraped away memories, but couldn't erase the shape of them. Rowan touched one frame, then whispered, "Do you see it?" I did, barely, but enough. A shape forming in the glass, of us, together, older, happy, safe. "It's rewriting the ending," I whispered. Rowan looked at me. "But why?" I swallowed, because we didn't give it one. And then, in that hallway, where Milo once smiled, where the portraits once watched, Rowan kissed me, soft, scared, real, and for the first time, the house felt full. The walls creaked once, not angry, not mourning, just sighing. Then everything went still, not frozen, not haunted, just quiet and safe. We left the house at sunset, didn't look back, didn't need to, because that version of us, the echo, was still there. And maybe that's okay, because we had something better now, something alive, something present. Rowan turned to me on the drive. "Do you think it's over?" I thought for a long time, then smiled. "No, but I think we're finally writing our version." He nodded. "Good." Then he said it, words I'll never forget, the ones that kept the thing away, longer than anything else had. "If it comes back, we're reminded who we really are." And for the first time, I believed him. The clock hit 3:21 a.m. that night, and nothing happened, just our breathing, and the sound of wind outside. Alive, human, free. Part 3. We spent the next 4 days in a quiet coastal town called Wren's Cove. No one knew us there. No one asked questions. We could breathe, sleep, laugh, even if it was only for a while. For the first time in weeks, we held hands in public, walked barefoot on the sand, watched sunsets without mirrors around us. And every night at 3:21 a.m., nothing happened, just the soft rhythm of waves. And Rowan's breathing beside mine, like the universe had given us A pause. But peace is tricky. It's never a gift. It's a loan. And deep down, we both knew the interest was coming due. On the 5th day, Rowan got a letter. No stamp. No return address. Just left on our doorstep. Folded once. Written in blue ink. I remember everything. Do you? Underneath it, a photo of me and Rowan, asleep in bed, taken from inside the room. We didn't speak for almost an hour. Just sat on the edge of the bed, staring at it, shivering, because we knew the door had been locked. We knew we were alone. And still, something got in. Again. It never left, Rowan whispered. I nodded. It just waited. That night, we didn't sleep. Not out of fear, out of decision. We sat by the window, watching the street, waiting. Rowan held a flashlight. I held the photo. The timestamp said 3:22 a.m., exactly 1 minute, after every nightmare we thought we'd outrun. At 3:17 a.m., we heard the faucet drip 3 times, then stop. At 3:19, the radio clicked on by itself. White noise, low static, but under it, a voice, layered deep beneath the hiss. I never meant to be forgotten. Rowan turned to me, pale, eyes wide. You heard that too, right? I nodded, but I wasn't just scared. I was angry, because peace had finally felt real. And now it was being stolen again, by something that didn't belong here. Something old, something lonely. At 3:21 a.m., the power died. Not just the lights, the fridge, the sockets, everything. Dead silence. Then, a knock on the bathroom mirror. From the inside, Rowan stood up, slowly, walked to the door. Don't, I whispered, but he opened it. The mirror was fogged, even though no one had showered. And in the center, a single word written in dripping streaks. Stay. We left the house before sunrise. No bags, no phones, no plan, just drove. Again, because that's what you do when the past won't die. You outpace it, or try to. We found a roadside diner an hour inland, ordered black coffee in silence. The waitress gave us a weird look, like she almost remembered us, like we were déjà vu in human form. And then she said, "You boys been through here before?" Rowan answered before I could. Not yet. Outside the window, an old payphone started ringing. Loud, shrill, insistent. No one got up to answer it, but we both knew that call was for us. Rowan stood. I grabbed his wrist. You don't have to pick it up. But he looked at me and said something I'll never forget. If I don't, it'll call you. So he walked to the phone, lifted the receiver, listened, eyes wide, then pale, then red-rimmed, like something had crawled into his ears, and whispered truth too awful to carry. He didn't speak, just stood there, frozen, then turned and walked back, sat across from me, and said one word, Milo. I felt the blood drain from my face. What about him? Rowan's voice was quiet, like a child being punished. He's not gone. I stared at him. I know. No, Rowan said. I mean, he's here. I didn't understand until Rowan slid something across the table. A photograph, fresh, developed, still curling at the edges. It showed the two of us, Rowan and me, from behind, sitting at this very table. And behind us, at the far corner booth, was Milo, smiling, but not at the camera. At us. He's been following, Rowan whispered. I stared at the photo, heart racing. Milo's dead. Rowan shook his head. No, he's waiting. The waitress returned, topped off our cups, then said something strange. Tell your friend he's not allowed to sit at booth 9 again. I blinked. What friend? She glanced at the photo in my hand, then at me, the one with the red hoodie. Rowan's hand trembled, because Milo wore a red hoodie the night he disappeared, and suddenly the air felt thick, wrong, like the static from a motel. was crawling through the seams of this place. Rowan stood. "Come on, we need to leave." But I couldn't move, because when I looked out the window, across the street was another payphone, and beside it was me, not moving, not blinking, just watching. Rowan grabbed my arm, pulled me to the car, slammed the door, started the engine. I stared at him. "What is this?" His eyes were wet, quiet, broken. I think we never made out. And in that moment, I knew exactly what he meant. Not literally, not physically, but spiritually, emotionally, because whatever happened that first night, whatever followed us, whatever answered the 321 call, it didn't stop chasing. It just learned to wear our faces. And now it was trying to replace us, piece by piece, memory by memory, moment by moment, until we were nothing but ghosts of the story. That night, we didn't sleep, we didn't speak. We just drove into the dark, somewhere far, from every version of us. We drove until the sun cracked the sky, somewhere past roads we recognized, and into a place where time stopped trying to matter. Rowan didn't speak for hours. Neither did I, because we were both afraid the moment we did, the truth would finally form out loud. And maybe it was better left unspoken. But when the sky turned gold and the trees thinned, Rowan pulled the car off the road, into a gravel path. No signs, no houses, just one broken gate and a mailbox with 3 scratch letters. MLO, not a name, not quite, but close enough. "I came here with him once," Rowan whispered. "Milo," he nodded. "It's where he took me after our first fight." We stepped out into the tall grass, crickets buzzing like static, the wind sharp, too quiet. Rowan led the way, like something was pulling him forward, or maybe he'd always been walking back. We reached the house after 20 minutes. Old, cracked, but standing, and every window covered with sheets, like someone wanted to forget what the inside looked like or what they'd seen. "I think this is where it started," Rowan said. I turned to him. "The haunting?" He shook his head. "No, the forgetting." The door creaked open on its own. No drama, no slamming, just invitation. And that felt worse, like it wanted us to enter, because this time, it was ready. The air inside was thick, not dusty, not cold, just heavy, like memories floated here, but didn't have permission to rest. Every picture frame was turned to the wall, every clock frozen at 3:21, every single one. We walked room by room, in silence, until Rowan stopped at a hallway closet, held the knob like it was a heartbeat. I think he left something here. He opened it slowly, and inside, hanging from a single nail, was his red hoodie, clean, folded at the hem, fresh, not dusty, like it had just been placed there. Rowan reached for it, but I grabbed his wrist. "Don't." He turned to me, tears already forming. "I have to remember." He pulled the hoodie down, and from underneath it, a small box fell, wooden, latched, carved with initials, RM, Rowan Milo, or maybe Remember Me. He opened the box. Inside, a Polaroid, faded, but still visible. Rowan and Milo, laughing, holding hands. But what struck me was myself, standing in the background, watching, expressionless, frozen, like I'd always been there, even before I met Rowan. "What is this?" I whispered. Rowan dropped the photo, staggered back. "No, this can't be real." I stared at him. "Was I there?" He shook his head. "I don't know. Or maybe you always were." The walls creaked. The light flickered. A cold wind swept the room, but only touched Rowan. And from behind the closet door, a voice echoed, soft, small, broken. "You replaced me." It was Milo, or what was left of him, but it wasn't angry. It was sad, and for the first time, I realized this wasn't about revenge. It was about being erased. Rowan fell to his knees, clutching the hoodie. I didn't mean to forget. The voice replied, but you did. A mirror cracked down the hallway. Another clock began to tick. Faster, faster, until it spun wildly and stopped. Back at 3:21. I stepped forward, heart pounding. Why that time? Silence. Then, it was the moment he stopped looking for me. It wasn't haunting us. It was looping us. In the moment of his disappearance, trying to make Rowan remember, to undo the erasure. But the truth was worse than either of us expected, because Rowan had moved on. He had forgotten things, and I was part of that forgetting, whether I wanted to be or not. Do you want him back? I asked aloud. The house went still. Then, no, he already chose. And then the walls began to shake. Photos fell. The clock spun backward. And behind us, the door slammed shut. I grabbed Rowan, pulled him up. We have to go. But he was frozen, looking at the Polaroid again, seeing something I hadn't. He turned to me, eyes filled with horror. You're not just part of this. You're a part of him. I stumbled back. What? He pointed to the photo, to the outline of me, but there was no face, just a blur, a smudge, not a person, but a placeholder, a shaped memory used to fill in the gaps. I don't understand, I said. Rowan dropped the hoodie, stepped toward me slowly. You showed up the night I let go of him. You never told me your last name. You never told me where you lived. You never even had socials. And I felt it then, a shift, like the floor beneath me wasn't real anymore, because maybe I wasn't either. The truth clawed at my ribs, came up through my throat, and I whispered, I was created to help you forget. The room dimmed, the clock shattered. Rowan stepped back, tears falling freely now. Milo didn't curse me. I did. By letting him go, by burying what hurt, I gave memory a face, a name, you. And I didn't deny it, because somewhere in the cracks of the real and the unreal, I'd known, all along, that I was too perfect, too present, too tailored to every ache in his chest. I wasn't the escape from the haunting. I was the haunting's answer, wrapped in comfort, in connection, in love, a beautiful lie meant to heal or erase. But now I wanted to be more, not a replacement, not a patch, but real. And maybe that was the curse all along. When memory becomes love, it demands to live. Rowan stepped forward, closer. His hand reached out, touched mine, and for the first time, I felt cold, like I was fading, or waking up, or both. Do you want me to stay? I asked. His lips trembled. I don't know. The wind howled outside. The voice, Milo's voice, echoed once more. Then remember me or release me. And Rowan closed his eyes, squeezed my hand, then whispered, I remember. The house exploded in white light. The clocks all stopped. 3:21. And then everything went quiet. Just gone. No house. No hoodie. No photo. Just Rowan, alone, standing in a field, with an empty hand, where I used to be. The wind died. The sky blinked. And Rowan stood alone in the field, hands still outstretched, fingers closing around nothing. He didn't cry, not right away, because part of him still believed I'd come back. Just step out from the trees, smile, say something sarcastic, like I always did. But minutes passed, then hours, then night, and I never came. Back at the motel, he sat on the bed we'd shared. Same mattress, same creaky fan, but the room smelled different now. Colder, less lived in, more like the absence of someone than the presence of something. He reached for his phone, opened our texts, but they were gone. Every message, every photo, like they'd never existed, or had been written over by memory, by time, by something older than either of us. He called my number anyway, just in case. The line rang once, then cut to voicemail, a robotic voice. This number is no longer in service. Rowan sat in the dark, in silence, until the clock blinked 3:21 a.m., and stayed there, frozen, as if the night had looped in on itself again. But this time, nothing came. No knocks, no voices, no flickering lights. Just stillness. Because this wasn't about ghosts anymore, or hauntings, or things that go bump in the night. This was about letting go, and what it cost to truly do it. He closed his eyes, tried to remember my voice, my laugh, my favorite coffee order, but the details were fuzzy, already fading, like sand through fingers, like I'd never really been tangible, only familiar, only warm, only safe. And maybe that was the point. Maybe I was never a person, but a process, the shape grief took when it wanted to feel like love. Outside the motel, a breeze stirred, soft, gentle, almost kind, and Rowan smiled for the first time in days, because deep down, he knew he was still loved, even if the person who loved him was gone or never real. But healing, that was real, and now, finally, he could start. 2 weeks later, he returned to the beach. Wren's Cove, same sand, same sky. He scattered something into the wind. Not ashes, not photos, just a note, folded once, written in blue ink. Thank you for teaching me how to stay. He watched it drift into the tide and let it go, just like he let go of me and Milo and the boy he used to be when all this began. Rowan didn't go home that night. He built one instead, in a new town, a quiet one, with coffee shops and art galleries, where he could be no one and become someone new, whole, unhaunted. And sometimes, when he walks past a mirror, he still sees me, smiling faintly, not a warning, not a ghost, just a memory, grateful, proud, and finally, at peace. Because the greatest act of love is knowing when to leave, so someone else can stay. Part 4. A full year passed, 12 months of silence, of mornings without messages, nights without that voice. No ghosts, no whispers, no 3:21 a.m. Just life. And yet, Rowan never fully stopped listening for it. He kept the red hoodie, even if he claimed it had vanished. Sometimes, he swore he still smelled the ocean on it. Sometimes, he wore it when it rained, just to feel close to something, or someone, or maybe to prove he still remembered. The new town was quiet. Books, coffee, walks that didn't lead to forgotten houses. His job at the local art co-op was simple: restocking canvases, curating weekend shows, smiling without having to mean it, until one Saturday afternoon, he did. "Hey, is this acrylic or oil blend?" Rowan turned, and his heart stopped. The man standing there looked exactly like me. Same build, same eyes, same crooked smile, like someone had pulled a memory out of Rowan's chest and given it skin. Rowan dropped the paintbrush in his hand. It clattered against the floor. "Sorry, He knelt to grab it, hand shaking. The guy laughed softly. "Didn't mean to startle you." Rowan looked up, breath caught. "No, it's okay. You just look." He stopped, because how do you say, "You look like someone who was never real, but I loved anyway"? The man tilted his head. "Have we met?" Rowan's voice was almost a whisper. "I don't think so." But part of him knew something deeper than face or tone, knew the way memories recognize each other, even in new bodies. The guy extended a hand. "Wes." Rowan took it, unsure if he was still breathing. Rowan. And when their fingers touched, a flash, not lightning, not vision, but something warm, like walking into a room that once held laughter, like the scent of a memory you forgot to bury. They both paused. Neither said anything. Then Wes smiled again, I'm new in town. Just opened a print shop around the corner. Rowan nodded slowly. Cool. I work here. Wes looked around the co-op, then back at him. Want to show me what you'd hang in my shop? Rowan agreed, almost automatically, like he had to, like some old thread between them had tugged again. They spent the next hour browsing canvases, talking about color theory, lighting, font choices, and heartbreak, because somehow it always comes back to that. Wes said he'd just left a 5-year relationship, said he wasn't looking for anything serious, said sometimes he dreamed of being someone else, somewhere else, like he'd been someone once, but forgot who. Rowan just listened, stomach in knots, because every word, every pause, felt like a whisper from the past. After Wes left, Rowan sat in the gallery window, watching the rain, and wondered if memory could reincarnate, or worse, if it could start over. That night, he didn't sleep. He stared at his phone. No texts, of course, but still, he opened notes, typed a single line. Did you send him? He saved it, didn't send it, because there was no one left to receive it. Not anymore. Days passed, then weeks, and Wes kept showing up, not just at the co-op, but on Rowan's walks, at his favorite cafe, at the market stall he never told anyone about, always casual, always unplanned, but too often to be chance. They talked, laughed, sat on benches as the sun set, and Rowan started feeling it again, the ache, the warmth, the terrifying edge of hope. But it wasn't just affection, it was familiarity, like Wes already knew Rowan's favorite candy, his coffee order, the songs he skipped halfway, his fear of losing people without saying goodbye. And then, one night, it broke, right in the middle of dinner at a rooftop spot Wes suggested. Wes reached into his pocket, pulled out a lighter, simple, red, flicked it, and Rowan froze, because on the side of the lighter were the letters, MLO, the same scratched letters from the mailbox, the initials that never made sense, the house that never reappeared, the dream that never let go. Rowan's fork clattered to the table. What's that? Wes looked down. Oh, just a lighter I found at a flea market. It was in a box with old matchbooks. He smiled. Funny, huh? But Rowan didn't laugh. His hands were trembling again. He leaned forward slowly. Have you ever had dreams you think might be memories? Wes blinked. Sometimes. Like what? Wes looked away. I dream of a motel. Near the sea. Red doors. A guy. Funny. Kind. A little broken. Rowan's eyes welled up. Do you know his name? Wes shook his head. No, but I think I loved him. The world tilted. Rowan gripped the edge of the table. This wasn't coincidence. This wasn't nostalgia. This was the echo, coming back, through another shape, another voice, another face, but the same soul. And maybe that's how love survives. Not always in the same timeline, or the same body, but in the reminders, the red hoodie, the 321, the dreams, the impossible chance that the universe doesn't forget. Not really. Rowan didn't sleep that night. He didn't even try, because how could he, when everything was unraveling again? And this time, not in pain, but in recognition. He stared at that lighter. MLO, 3 letters that never belonged to Wes, but were now in his hands, just like they had been in mine, just like they'd been in that motel drawer, just like they were when Rowan first knew he wasn't imagining it. It wasn't déjà vu. It wasn't trauma. It was return. Something, or someone, had come back. But why? And how? The next morning, Rowan showed up at Wes's print shop. He didn't knock, didn't text first, just stood there in the doorway and waited. Wes looked up from the counter, smiled like he always did, but when he saw Rowan's face, the smile faltered. Hey, what's wrong? Rowan walked in slowly, placed a lighter on the counter between them. His voice was hoarse. Where did you really get this? Wes frowned. I told you. Flea market. Why? You don't think it's strange? Rowan stepped closer. That the initials on this matched the ones from I. He stopped himself, his hands clenched into fists. Wes watched him cautiously, like he didn't know whether to laugh or run. Okay, Rowan whispered. You said you dream of a motel. The sea. A boy. Wes nodded slowly. Rowan stared straight into his eyes. Have you ever seen me in your dreams? Wes didn't answer, not with words, but something changed in his expression, almost like fear or realization. Wes looked away. I hear a voice sometimes, laughing, sarcastic. It's warm but lonely, like it's trying to say goodbye but never gets to. Rowan stepped even closer. What if that voice is mine? Wes blinked. What if we knew each other before? Rowan's voice cracked. In a different way. A different time. What if this? He gestured between them. This already happened? And you forgot? And I didn't. Wes's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Just silence. I know how this sounds, Rowan said, backing away. I know it's insane. But the hoodie, the dreams, that lighter, your name. Wes froze. My name. Rowan nodded. Wes. Short for Wesley. Yeah. Rowan swallowed. Do you know what Mello could mean? Wes shook his head. And then he didn't, because his eyes widened, slowly, like a curtain lifting, like something fell into place. I had a friend once, he whispered. Online. Years ago. We talked every night. I was 16. He was 17. We never met. Rowan's breath caught. What was his name? Wes's voice was barely audible. Row. A beat. Then two. Then Rowan stepped back like he'd been punched. Because no one called him that. No one but me. I used to call him Row in my texts, Wes said. But then he stopped replying. Just vanished. I waited months. Thought maybe he got bored. Or found someone else. Rowan's knees gave out. He sat down right on the floor. Hands shaking. Voice low. That was me. Wes blinked. What? That was me. I was 17. You were 16. We met on that app. We talked all summer. And then one day your account disappeared. Wes stared at him, completely still. I don't remember deleting it. You didn't. Rowan wiped a tear. You got in a car accident. A week before we planned to meet. I waited for you at the beach for 6 hours. Silence. Wes's lips parted. I was in the hospital for 2 weeks. He ran a hand through his hair. They said I'd had a head injury. Some memory loss. But I thought it was just stuff from school. I didn't know I forgot you. Now Rowan was crying. No drama. No big sobs. Just tears. Falling slowly. Because this wasn't some tragic twist. This was real. Proof that love doesn't always vanish. Sometimes it just waits. In fragments. In dreams. In a body that eventually finds its way back. So what happens now? Wes whispered. Rowan stood, walked to him, face inches away, and said, Don't say you love me if you don't remember loving me. Wes didn't answer, not with words. He stepped forward and hugged Rowan, tight, long, like a memory finally coming home. Outside the shop, the clock blinked 3:21 p.m., and neither of them noticed, but the universe did. Later that night, they sat under the stars. No big decorations, no promises, just each other, again. And for now, that was enough. Morning broke soft and quiet. The world didn't change. There were no fireworks, no sudden enlightenment, just 2 coffee mugs, 2 chairs on a porch, and the space between them no longer empty. Rowan sat in the hoodie, the one I gave him, the one he swore had vanished. But now, it felt warmer than ever, because it wasn't just fabric anymore. It was memory, history, and a future trying to grow roots. Beside him, Wes stared out at the fog rolling off the hills, not speaking, just breathing, and maybe That was enough. It had been a week since the truth unraveled. 7 days of soft conversations, shared music, half-remembered stories that ended in, "Wait, I do remember that." They didn't try to rush it, didn't jump into anything too fast, because what they had now wasn't just a reunion, it was a rebirth. Wes had started writing again, poems, mostly about light, and forgetting, and how sometimes you don't lose people, you just misplace them, like photographs in the wrong drawer. But if you wait long enough, they show up again, a little wrinkled, a little softer, but still here, still yours. Rowan picked up the photo one morning, the only one he still had from that summer. Blurry, sunlight in his eyes, smiling so hard his jaw hurt. Wes leaned over. "That's the face I remember." Rowan glanced sideways. "You barely remembered me." "I never forgot you." Wes tapped his chest. "Just lost the key to where I put you." That night, something shifted. They walked down to the pier. Same path, same cold air. But this time, Rowan wasn't alone, and neither was Wes. "I used to wonder," Rowan whispered, "if love could follow us between lifetimes." Wes stopped. "You think that's what this is?" Rowan smiled faintly. "I think this is what happens when love gets interrupted." A long pause. Then Wes said, "Then let's not interrupt it again." They sat on the end of the dock, shoes off, toes grazing the water. Rowan leaned into him. "I don't need a big promise," he said. "Good," Wes replied, "because I only have one." Rowan looked up. Wes grinned. "I'll stay. That's it. That's all I've got." And that was enough. Not just a promise, but a vow. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady, like breath, like sunrise, like coming home. In the final week of August, they visited the motel. It wasn't there anymore, just gravel and a few old foundations. Rowan walked the perimeter. No tears, no chills, no ghosts, just peace. Wes walked beside him, quiet, respectful. And when Rowan paused, Wes placed something on the ground, that same red lighter, with the initials and a note, folded once. "Thank you for letting us try again." They didn't say goodbye, because now they didn't have to. They just turned, walked back toward the car, and didn't look back, because the past had finally let them go. 3 years later, they moved in together. Wes runs a full-time poetry zine. Rowan teaches art therapy. No huge wedding, no viral Instagram posts. Just every day, one more than the last. And sometimes Rowan still wakes up at 3:21 a.m. But now, it's not because of grief. It's just Wes sneaking into the kitchen for midnight cookies, and Rowan laughing softly from bed, "You never change." To which Wes always replies, "Thank God for that." And if love really is a circle, then maybe this was always a middle. Not the end, just a second beginning. Because real love doesn't vanish. It waits. Thank you for staying with Rowan and Wes. From first message to last memory to a new life. Now it's your turn. What do you think? Can love return another form or another life? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. That's how we keep telling stories that matter. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, stay open to the impossible.